Entertainment Soldier here, and I'm back talking about Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 7, and my thoughts on this episode. I think it's an okay episode. I don't think it's a great episode. My problems are basically, it felt very slow, this episode, and I really did just want them to get to the point in some of the scenes. But just because I think it's a bit slow, I don't think it's a terrible episode. I loved the fact we found out more about these particular changelings and how they kind of showed us why they are fighting the Federation and why they hate the Federation so much. I mean, that is one of the biggest strengths of Star Trek, is it will always give you both sides of an argument, and showing us why these changelings hated the Federation, I think, was amazing. And it kind of makes you feel massively sorry for them, and you get why they want to destroy the Federation because of what the Federation did to them. So I thought that was an amazing part of the episode. It's just, it did feel very slow. I really did just want them to get to the fucking point. And I know you got to, tell the story and you can't just run to the ending. I get it. But again, it did feel very slow in parts. But I loved also the cameo we got in this episode. It was a very surprising cameo because I didn't expect him to be in this series, honestly. And I'm happy he is, because he was a great character in his Star Trek. I'm trying desperately not to spoil it yet, but it was great to see him back, and it was great to see Seven interact with him. So that's another plus. But yeah, this episode as a whole is just okay. I'm just, I didn't really agree with the plan they had. I think it's kind of a bit stupid to leave yourself that open. Maybe he should have... Well, I won't get that until we get to spoilers, but I think the plan was stupid. I'm kind of disappointed it was that easy for them to... Well, again, I can't go into spoilers. But yeah, I just didn't agree with Picard's plan in this episode. And the ending... Ooh, I really wish they'd just get us to the point where they tell us what Jack is, because we obviously seeing in this episode Jack's obviously not normal. There's something actually seriously up with him, and it can't just be explained away with some sort of disease. There is something massively wrong with him, and in this episode they do, well, Vadik does let something slip that pretty much confirms my my thought that Jack is a changeling. Now, going into that into the spoiler section. But it's still a good episode. I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm not saying it's woke. I'm not saying it's a disaster. I'm just saying, didn't agree with the plan, and it just needs to get to the point faster. That's all I'm saying. But as a whole, I'm still going to give it a high grade. I'm still going to give it... Well, I'm going to have to go to 7 out of 10. Because I don't really... Again, I think it's the weakest episode so far. But it's still a good episode. Compared to what we've gotten from fucking, Paramount and CBS. I mean, and Kurtzman Trek. This is still 10 times better. It's just... We've gone to this point now with Picard where I'm expecting brilliance in every episode. Okay? I know I can't expect every episode to be fantastic, but I do expect it to, be as good as all the others. And I think this episode, it just felt too slow for me. And that's just my biggest problem with the episode. So, a 7 out of 10. It's probably the lowest mark I've given an episode of Picard, but it's still a good show, and it's still a good episode. It's just little problems, and that's it. So, let's go into spoilers now. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So, the episode starts off with the Titan in the middle of a ship junkyard where they have decided to make contact with someone in Starfleet. Now, I was pretty shocked that it was this character, because I thought of all the characters you'd bring back, I thought you'd concentrate on people in the Next Generation past. But no, this episode, we got to see Tuvok again. And I thought that was fantastic, seeing Tuvok again in Star Trek. I mean, Seven is a part of Voyager, and I love the fact that we were able to see them in a scene with each other. And again, it was just an amazing scene between them. So Seven is trying to make contact with Tuvok and trying to make a plan up to deal with the changelings in Starfleet. But she has to make sure that Tuvok is the real Tuvok and not a changeling. And when Seven tries to, question him on certain things that that's happened in their past, Tuvok gets most of these questions right. They've also got a computer monitoring Tuvok's speech pattern, so to make sure there's no, differences between the way he speaks now and the way he's spoken in the past. So I thought that was a great addition to the episode. I thought that was great to see that they have computers now that can detect that. Another way to kind of try to detect changelings. I thought that was a very amazing idea. So Tuvok passes the first question Seven gives to him about their games with each other and how she used to beat him a bit. But then she asks him different questions and he gets them absolutely wrong in Seven. I think she mentioned something about the time that Seven and Tuvok mind melded together when she was dealing with the Borg, the multiple Borg personalities in herself. And when Tuvok didn't get that right, she knew he's obviously not Tuvok, he's a changeling. And as soon as the changeling Tuvok knew the game was up, he pretty much just goes to threatening them. And when Picard questions changeling Tuvok about the location of Riker, the changeling changes into Riker and pretty much says that Riker is dead. I mean, I don't think he really is dead, but I think they just do that to piss him off. So they have to cut the signal because if they keep talking with this changeling, Starfleet might be able to find the location of the Titan, and Geordi has to mention that to Picard that they can't keep doing this anymore because apparently they've done this multiple times and the same thing happens every time. It turns out the person they go to for help is a changeling, and it's becoming harder and harder to stop Starfleet from finding the location of the Titan. So they're pretty much in the shit right now because they have no idea what they can do to fight the changelings in Starfleet, because they seem to control every security measure, every Starfleet. They seem to control everything, and there's no way for Picard to get to the leadership of the Federation to warn them about the changelings. So we go into the conference room where Beverly mentions that there must be a way to find the changelings in Starfleet. There has to be some weakness in their genome that can give them an advantage to finding them. But she seems conflicted by this because it could mean using a virus to find them. And as she's a doctor and a member of Starfleet, that's pretty dangerous because that's paramount to genocide if she just kills these new forms of changelings. So she's very conflicted by that, but Picard kind of mentions that they might not have a choice, and they have to think about the Federation now, and they have to figure out a way to fight these changelings. They also bring up the fact about the changelings stealing Picard's body, how they still don't understand why stealing Picard's body is so important to the changelings. And Picard mentions that he's supposed to be making a speech at Frontier Day, and this could be one of the ways the changelings are going to try to get close to the leadership or something. But again, they still don't know why Picard's body is so important. Beverly also mentions that maybe Picard's body doesn't have his full blood parts or something, and maybe Jack is going to be the replacement for that. Maybe because Jack is Picard's son, maybe his blood is identical to Picard's because they share DNA, but that kind of does seem like a stretch. It can't just be for that. So, again, we're still not entirely sure why Picard's body is so important in this attack that they're planning. In the next scene, we go to see the Data-Lore hybrid, and Geordi has to mention that he explains what Data is basically, and he's a robot who is having an internal fight between Lore and Data. And it turns out B4 and Dr. Sun, they're not a part of they are a part of the body, but their minds are not in the body. They seem to be memory chips in Data-Lore's body. So they're not going to be in this fight. They're never going to try to take over the body because there's just not enough of them to do that. But in Data's body, Lore is fighting him to take full control of the body so he can survive. And Data is unfortunately too weak to fight Lore. So Geordi's worried that if they try to mess with the system, that they could give an advantage to Lore, and Lore could pretty much wipe out Data completely and take over the body completely. But Picard unfortunately has to mention the season 1 Data, because he mentions how he had to let Data go once, he had to let Data go some other time, and he doesn't want to do that again. And I'm kind of a bit annoyed they did remind us of season 1 Data, because that story was completely fucking stupid. But I get why they have to, because it adds to the story, but you couldn't just say the scimitar scene, like Picard had to watch Data die once. Maybe you could have just done that scene and kind of skipped over the whole Data being depressed and Picard had to put him out of his misery, because that's what he did in season 1, just put Data out of his fucking misery, which was a depressing, ridiculous scene. But that's how they want to do this in Picard season 3. Fine, at least we didn't, fuck it anyway. So Joy doesn't know what to do with Data. Picard doesn't really want to risk Data and have Lore take over, so they're pretty much gonna leave Geordi's daughter with Data and let them kind of figure out what to do with Data later on. We then get a scene between Jack and Sydney. They're in a turbo lift with each other, and it's obvious that they both find each other attractive. They obviously want to date each other, whatever. But this is where we start to see Jack is acting very strange, because he starts to be able to read people's minds, because Sydney mentions that she wants Jack to make the first move, basically, and touch her hand, to show that he's interested. And when Jack hears that, he does it, and that confuses Sydney, because that's exactly what she wanted, and it just seems very weird that he would do what she wanted at the exact same time she thought it. So Jack is starting to get a lot weirder. He's starting to see that there is something still massively wrong with him, and he doesn't know what it is. So he goes up to the bridge to try to talk to his father, but unfortunately they are dealing with other problems. And the problem is they get a code from Riker, and it's an emergency code Starfleet captains send if they've been captured, so that you can change the prefix code of a starship so nobody can take over your starship, just in case an enemy takes a captain, finds out the source code and takes over your ship. So a code is sent out to a ship so that they can delete the prefix code and change it. Basically what it is. But this is coming from Riker, so it's obvious that it's not from Riker. It's obviously from either Starfleet or whoever's got him. And it turns out Worf and Raffi are not in this episode. They've gone off to kind of see if they can get back to Daystrom to get Riker, but they find out that Riker is not with Starfleet. So the crew pretty much figure out it must be Vadik, he must be on the strike. So this code must be from the strike. So the plan is, well, they don't have a plan, because Jack then comes and talks to Picard. They go to the a conference room where Jack tells Picard something's wrong with him. He has to figure out what's up with him because he's starting to feel weird. He's starting to hear things. He's starting to hear voices. And Picard is kind of just like, you got to calm down. We'll fix this. But then Jack says that he's sick and tired of people dying for him. And he's sick and tired of being... Well, he's sick and tired of not being the lead in this story. He wants to be... Like, he's sick and tired of being on the back foot, basically. He wants to take over this... well, he doesn't want to be controlled anymore by these changelings. He's sick and tired that they are in full control of this situation and they just keep having to be behind. So Picard basically says, fine, there is a way that we can change the tables and have us in control and not the changelings. So what they do is they send a signal, or at least have a signal sent to the Shrike, claiming that the Titan has been seriously damaged because of a fight it's had with I think it was a Romulan ship or a Federation ship, and it's been seriously damaged by this attack, and the Shrike should come and get Jack, basically. We then get a scene between Vadik and the mysterious bad guy of the entire show, and how he wants Jack immediately, and he's sick and tired of Vadik failing, and he wants this situation sorted out. Now, we still have no idea who this character is, because I thought it was a changeling controlling Vadik, but if Vadik is a changeling, and this other person just has no regard for her and her people, I don't know. I mean, what we found out in this episode about these changelings, it could still be a changeling, because changelings are still kind of Puritans. They kind of still don't like inferior things, and maybe these changelings think of these other changelings as inferior. I mean, I'm still not sure, because we still have no idea who this bad guy is. I mean, there's been a lot of people making a lot of claims. Maybe it's a Cardassian who's figured out some sort of genetic way of controlling these changelings. Maybe it's a enemy from Next Gen's past. I mean, I don't know. There's like no clues, unfortunately. But I do find it still interesting that there's just so many areas. I mean, there's just so many people that we could point to that could be the bad guy, and I don't think that's massively interesting. But anyway, so the bad guy threatens Vadik and tells her to sort this out, get Jack Crusher now, stop wasting time. So Vadik pretty much just says she'll do it, and the conversation ends. And she heads back to her chair and pretty much, well, she starts to get worried now because she is fearing for her people's security. But they get the signal about the Titan, they head to the Titan, and when they get there, they scan the Titan and see that most of the systems are offline. It's only on emergency power, its warp core is off, and so this looks like a good situation for them. But one of the changelings on the Shrike mentions that this could be a trap, but Vadik pretty much dismisses it and says, we're running out of time, we need to get Jack Crusher, or we're going to pretty much pay for it. So she heads off with a away team on a shuttle. They don't use transports because apparently there could still be problems with using their transports to get onto the Titan. Maybe there's a trap for them there, who knows. So they take a shuttle over there, they get on the Titan. When Vadik walks onto the ship, she bumps into Jack, who asks her why she wants him. And and again, this is what's weird about this whole situation. She still seems very protective of Jack. Like, she doesn't want no harm to come to him. She tries to convince him to come with them because she would tell him where they're taking him, but apparently it's better to show him. And again, it's just feeling like maybe Jack is a changeling and he just doesn't know it. Again, it does feel weird. I mean, it just seems weird that she just won't stun him or anything. She just wants to take him voluntarily, which is very confusing. Just why not just stun him and drag him? But again, she's a changeling, and changelings do care about their people. Like, seriously, they really do care. So Jack runs. He fires a couple of shots at them. They chase after him. The changelings split up, and Vadik then gets captured by Jack using force fields. So Jack captures Vadik in a force field, then runs off. They keep using the force fields to cut off the other changelings so they can't move around the ship. And then Jack and Sydney get trapped by a couple of changelings, but they put down force fields around them, and that keeps them safe from the changelings. Again, the changelings are running around the whole ship, doing as much as they can. And Shaw takes down a couple of security members to fight the changelings himself. He kills a couple of them, but a couple of his cadets get killed. Not his cadets, his staff get killed, but he manages to fight the changelings off pretty well. Then we get a great scene between Beverly and Vadik. Now, Beverly mentions how she's a doctor and she's taking the Hippocratic Oath and she doesn't want to hurt her. But she kind of has to because she's a mother and she wants to protect her kid. And Vadik just doesn't seem fazed by this at all because she realises that she's in an interrogation and she's not going to be the main person because she realises Picard behind her, and he's pretty much going to be the focus of this interrogation. It's like, at least that's what he thinks. So Picard and Beverly pretty much try to question her about why she's doing this, why they want their son. And there's this one line that Vadik says, which is, "Let me join with him." And that doesn't work on human beings though, does it? Because we've already seen this with Otto. It has to be a changeling you join with. So Vadik says that. So Jack must be a changeling if she wants to link with him. And I think that's got to be what he is because she's mentioning so much about the link process. And how she cares about Jack, how she doesn't want to hurt him. Again, he must be a changeling. But I still doesn't explain how Jack can read people's minds because I don't think changelings can do that. So again, no idea what Jack is, but he must be something of importance. I mean, Anyway. So Picard again mentions why you want the son. Why are you attacking the Federation? Is it because of the Dominion War? Both sides did bad things. But Vadik says you can't say that about the war. Because, yes, we started the war. But you fought it in a dirty way, basically. You can't compare us. We attacked you using armies. You attacked us using viruses and tried to genocide the changelings or the founders. What you did in the war was worse than what we did. We at least fought you fair, technically. And it turns out Vadik did fight in the Dominion War. And I love the fact Picard is mentioning so much about the Dominion War because it did feel like Star Trek tried to forget about the Dominion War for a time because they barely mentioned it in Voyager. They mentioned it, I think, in one episode, and that was explaining how the what they called the Maquis. They mentioned how the Maquis were wiped out by the Dominion, and that was the only thing you ever heard about the Dominion in Voyager. And I kind of think in Voyager they should have mentioned the war a lot more because it's a very important part of Star Trek lore. So I was disappointed that Voyager never went into depth with the Dominion War, how they were never involved in it, and and some people on Voyager must have lost friends and family in that war. So I'm just glad that Picard is mentioning more about the Dominion War. But anyway, so it turns out Vadik fought in the war, but she was captured by Starfleet. Now, we never heard about this in Deep Space Nine, about captured changelings, but it turns out the Federation, or Section 31, had captured changelings and had decided to do experiments on them. And these experiments weren't to try to figure out a way to find these changelings. No, it's ways to control them and ways to make them better at, spying on Starfleet's enemies. Putting a changeling into a certain race's population, having that changeling go up in the ranks or taking over a leader role, or taking out a leader and replacing him with a changeling to protect the Federation. Basically, these changelings are trained to be spies and to destroy cultures or to destroy governments, so to protect the Federation. And Vadik mentions how that her people were tortured, her family were killed by these scientists, and one particular scientist. And it turns out that Vadik's face is the face of the woman who tortured her and tortured all of the changelings to make them better soldiers for Section 31 or for the Federation. So that is why she hates the Federation so much, and these particular changelings want to destroy the Federation because of what happened to them during the war, and how the Federation tried to turn them into weapons for them. And I thought that was amazing because, again, you're showing why these people are bad. You're showing why they want to fight, why they want to kill the Federation. And it makes sense because that's a pretty evil thing for the Federation to have done. And you're kind of on her side at points. Destabilize. That was annoying me. These changelings are designed to destabilize governments and destabilize militaries. Sorry, that was annoying me. But yes. So Vadik is angry, and she explains how she escaped because it turns out the scientist did such a good job that she was able to escape from her tube. She stabs a doctor who's been torturing her and her family and her friends, and then she helps all these changelings that the Federation captured escape, and now they have made it their mission to destroy the Federation. But again, it does seem like Vadik might not be is not the main bad guy. So who is in control of her? That's what's still confusing me about this character. Like, she obviously isn't the main bad guy anymore. She's being controlled. But anyway, so we go back to Law, and we go back to Geordie, and Geordie's trying to figure out what's up with Law, but then what's up with Data? But then Law takes full control of the body, and then starts to take full control of the ship systems because he's still connected to the ship. And Geordie's trying to get through to Data. He mentions how his death affected him more than anything, and how his relationship with Data made him a better person, made him a better father, and how he needs Data to fight Law because Law's taken over the ship now. He's turned off the ray shields, and how the changelings are starting to escape the force fields that have been put around them, and Jack and Sydney are now having to fight the changelings that are around them, and then Law puts a force field between him and Sydney, and Sydney's pretty much struggling with this massive changeling. Oh, and Law also turns off the force fields around Vadik, and Vadik escapes Picard and Beverly. Oh, before this, Beverly and Picard had a conversation about what to do with Vadik. Picard says that he doesn't really want to kill her because that's not what the Federation does. That's not how his compass works. But Beverly says she's pretty much fine with it. She knows that as soon as they invited these changelings onto the ship, they were inviting death, and they need to protect their son. She needs to protect her son from Jack. And then Vadik turns into Jack to kind of taunt her. So that's pretty much going to piss her off. So she wants to kill Vadik. Picard pretty much says that's pretty much what we've got to have to do now to protect our son. We need to kill Vadik. But then Law turns off the force field, and Picard and Beverly start shooting Vadik, but she turns into goo. Finds a way out of the room they're in, and they can't stop her, basically. Then we get the scene between Jack and Sydney, and Jack's pretty much dealt with his changeling, killing him, but Sydney's struggling very hard. Well, she's struggling with her changeling because he's a massive cunt. And then Jack does the strangest thing. He takes over Sydney's body using his red eye thing. And then you see Sydney's eyes go red as well. And Jack then starts to fight the changeling himself using her body, and then grabs a phaser and shoots the changeling and saves Sydney. But then Sydney starts to get really weirded out by this because she started to hear Jack in her mind. They started to have conversations telepathically, and it freaks her out. She points a phaser at Jack, but Jack kind of just says, listen, it's me, I'm on your side, we need to work together, and they then run off to find Picard and Beverly. We then get Shaw with another group of security chasing after Vadik and the big guys that's always with her. They kill the 2 security guys with Shaw. Shaw manages to kill the big fucker, but then turns out he's not really dead, and Shaw gets thrown into the elevator where Vadik is, and Vadik then manages to get up to the bridge where Seven is waiting with most of the crew, trying to protect the bridge, where Seven says they're definitely not going to take over this bridge, but unfortunately the bridge gets overrun with changelings. They kill a couple of Federation officers, and Seven has to surrender the bridge to Vadik. And Vadik takes over the bridge and wins the day, basically, and tells Seven to open up a channel to her new ship, as she is now the new captain of the Titan. And Shaw's pretty much been left on the floor. He got the shit kicked out of him by that big guy, I think. And she tells Jack, because Jack then finds Picard and Beverly with Sydney. Oh my god, I forgot the scene. Sorry. Before all this, you had the scene between Geordi and Law. Law keeps taunting him and saying, I don't really care about this ship. I don't care about what happens to anybody. I just want there to be chaos. I want to live. I don't see why I should sacrifice myself to give Data the right to life. But then somehow Data is able to take full control of the body and then unlocks all the systems, giving back control of the ship to Geordi. And then Geordi and Data try to help stop the changelings from taking over the ship. Again, back to where we were, where Vadik has taken over the bridge. She takes control of the communications and sends a signal to Will, and then tells Jack that it's time to finally tell you what you are. And then the episode ends and I get really fucking pissed off, because we really need to know what the fuck Jack is right now, because it isn't making sense. And that's the end of the episode. I did enjoy this episode. I'm not saying it's a bad episode. I'm just saying it was a bit slow at times. I just really wanted to get to the point. And when you get to that fucking point where you see on the episode count thing that you've only got 10 seconds, well, you only got a couple of minutes left, and Vadik's about to tell you what Jack is, and the fucking episode ends, that pisses me off, man. Because I really want to know what is going on. Damn it. But anyway, it was still a good episode. It was a good episode. Okay, the information we've been finding out from these changelings, the more lore that they're adding into the Dominion War, it's amazing. And again, the best thing about Star Trek is it always gives you both sides of an argument. And of course you're going to feel sorry for these fucking changelings, because they were abused by the Federation, and of course they have a right to kind of take it down. But it's not really the Federation, it's Section 31, and I kind of wish I'm hoping in the next couple of next episode, you'll get Picard, saying that to her, like, they did make a mistake. They do regret what happened during the war, and there needs to be peace between the Dominion and the Federation, or we're just going to end up in a war with each other again, and things could get a lot worse. But Picard is just such a great show now. It's just absolutely amazing to watch every time, because they don't just add worthless shit, and that's the problem with Kurtzman Trek. It adds crap. It adds nothing good. But with this season of Picard, it's just added so much genuinely great stuff, and that is just so fantastic. I'm so glad Terry seems to understand what it takes to make Star Trek fans happy and to make a good show, which is just amazing. And that's the end of my video. If you like this video, give it a like. If you dislike this video, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do forget to subscribing. And again, if you want to put comments down below, I will try to get back to them as soon as I can. I know I'm very slow on the whole getting back to the comments, But again, I do have to work a real job, and it does take a lot of time. So I do want to apologise if I'm very slow. But again, you see, I do get back to you as fast as I can. Sorry again. Entertainment Soldier, bye.